When my daughter-in-law said, "We'll take care of you, Mom," I believed her. I smiled, nodded, and whispered, "Thank you, dear." I remember that moment so clearly. The way her hand rested on mine, her voice calm and warm. It sounded sincere, full of promise. My son Daniel stood beside her, holding a cup of coffee, smiling faintly like he agreed with every word. Back then, I thought I was lucky. Not every mother gets children who stay close, who promise to care for her when she's old and frail. But promises, they sound beautiful until you have to live through the silence that follows them. I never imagined that the same people who once brought me flowers would someday forget my birthday, or that the house that used to echo with laughter would grow so quiet I could hear the clock ticking in the hallway. People always tell you that aging is gentle, that it's peaceful, a time to rest and look back proudly. But they never talk about the loneliness. They never tell you how heavy a dinner table feels when it's set for one. That's how it began, with a promise, with her saying, "We'll take care of you," and me believing she meant it. I raised my son mostly on my own. My husband Frank passed away when Daniel was just 12. He was a kind man, a quiet soul who worked with his hands, built furniture, fixed old things people thought were useless. He always said, "Wood remembers the touch of care." When he died, everything fell on me. I took double shifts at the library, managed the bills, cooked, cleaned, helped with homework, did what mothers do. It wasn't easy, but I never complained. Daniel was my reason. He was bright, polite, and full of life. When he graduated college and got his first job, I felt like I had done something right. That's when I met her. Emma. She was beautiful, confident, and kind. At least that's how she seemed. She worked in marketing, always had her phone in her hand, always busy, always planning. She had this way of talking that made everyone feel like they mattered. I liked her immediately. I wanted to, because when your only son loves someone, you try to see them through his eyes. When they got married, I stood in the front row, tears rolling down my face, not from sadness, from relief. I thought, he won't be alone. He has someone. Years passed quietly. I lived in the same old house, the one Frank built with his own hands. Daniel and Emma visited on weekends. We'd have dinner together, talk about their jobs, their city life, their friends. Sometimes Emma brought me little gifts, a scarf, a candle, a book she thought I'd like. I always thanked her like it meant the world, because in my quiet life, it did. But as time went on, those weekends became less frequent. Work got busy, traffic got worse, and next week turned into next month. Still, I understood. Life moves fast for the young. Then, one winter, I slipped on the porch and broke my hip. That's when everything changed. I woke up in a hospital bed, surrounded by white walls and the faint smell of antiseptic. Daniel stood by my side, his hand resting on the railing. He looked worried, tired. Emma was next to him, scrolling through her phone, trying to look calm. "Mom," Daniel said, "don't worry. We'll take care of you." Emma nodded. "Yes, Mom. We'll handle everything." I smiled weakly. "I'll be fine. I just need a few weeks." But a few weeks turned into months. Rehabilitation, medication, home visits from nurses. It all blurred together. One evening, as I sat on the couch with my walker beside me, Daniel said, "Mom, why don't you move in with us for a while? We have the space. You shouldn't be alone." It sounded perfect. Warm, safe, family. So I packed a few boxes, my clothes, photo albums, a few books, and Frank's old tools, and moved into their suburban home. At first, everything was nice. They had a guest room ready for me, with soft lighting and new sheets. Emma even placed flowers on the nightstand. The first week, she cooked breakfast, checked on me, and asked if I needed anything. Daniel helped me with the stairs, drove me to therapy. I told myself, see, they meant it. They really meant it. But soon I began to notice small changes. Emma started closing the kitchen door when she cooked, as if my presence made her uneasy. Daniel began working late. Or maybe he just didn't want to come home early. I overheard whispers. not arguments, just small sighs of frustration. "Your mom used all the hot water again," Emma would say. Or, "She keeps leaving things on the counter. Little things. But they add up." I tried to stay out of the way. I stayed in my room most of the time, watched TV quietly, ate small portions, cleaned up after myself. Still, I could feel it, the shift, the warmth turning into distance. Then one evening, as I sat in the living room knitting, I heard them talking in the kitchen. Emma said softly, "This can't go on forever, Dan. She's slowing everything down. We can't live like this." There was a long silence. Then Daniel replied, "I know. I just don't know what else to do." That night, I cried silently. I didn't want them to hear. I had become a burden, something to be managed, not loved. A few weeks later, Emma suggested something temporary. She said, "Mom, there's a lovely assisted living place just a few miles from here. It's clean, it's quiet, and you'll have people your age to talk to. We'll visit every weekend." Her tone was sweet, almost rehearsed. Daniel nodded beside her. I wanted to say no. I wanted to shout, "I don't want to go anywhere." But I didn't. Instead, I smiled. "When would you like me to move?" They both looked relieved. That's what I remember most, when their relief. The facility was small but decent. A pale building with neat lawns and white chairs outside. The nurses were kind, and the other residents were polite, though most of them kept to themselves. The first week, Daniel and Emma visited. They brought me new blankets and framed pictures of the family. We had tea in the garden, and Daniel promised, "We'll come every weekend, Mom." But weekends became texts. Texts became silence. Weeks passed. Then months. I waited every Sunday, dressed up, hair combed, waiting by the window. Sometimes I made excuses for them. They're busy, maybe traffic. But deep down I knew they had moved on. The nurses grew used to seeing me by the window. One of them, a kind girl named Lucy, would sit with me. "They'll come, don't worry," she'd say. And I'd smile. "I know, dear. They always do." But they didn't. The last time I heard from them was Christmas. A card in the mail with a printed message. "Merry Christmas, Mom. Hope you're doing well. Love, Daniel and Emma." No handwriting, just a printed name. That night, I sat on my bed, holding that card, and whispered, "I'm fine." But my voice broke. Seasons changed. Spring turned into summer. The nurses became my new family. They called me Mama June. We'd share tea, gossip about the news, and sometimes they'd let me water the flowers outside. I found comfort in small things. The smell of fresh coffee, the warmth of sunlight through my window, the laughter from the nurses' station. But sometimes, late at night, I'd look at the photo on my nightstand. Daniel as a boy, smiling, his hair messy from the wind, and wonder where that little boy went. One day, Lucy came into my room and said, "June, you have a visitor." My heart raced. "Daniel?" She shook her head gently. "No, dear. Someone from the local church. They're doing a volunteer program." I smiled, but my chest ached. The volunteer, a young man named Tom, started visiting weekly. He'd read to me, help with letters, talk about life. He reminded me of Daniel. Kind eyes, quiet presence. One afternoon I told him everything. How I believed in promises. How I held on to words like, "We'll take care of you." And how those words slowly faded into silence. He didn't say much. Just listened. Then, before leaving, he said, "Maybe you took care of them more than they could ever take care of you." That line stayed with me, because maybe he was right. Maybe love isn't about what people give you at the end. Maybe it's about what you gave them all along. Quietly, without expecting anything back. It's been 3 years now. I haven't heard from Daniel or Emma since that Christmas card. Sometimes I wonder if they feel guilty, or if they've just convinced themselves I'm fine. I don't hate them. I can't. Love doesn't just disappear because someone forgets to return it. It just changes shape. Now I spend my evenings watching the sunset through the window. The sky turns orange, then purple, then fades into a quiet night. I think of Frank. I think of Daniel as a boy running through the yard, and I whisper, "I did my best." Maybe that's what peace is. Not getting what you were promised, but learning to live kindly anyway. So when people ask me, "Do you miss your family?" I smile softly and say, "Every day." Then I look out the window and add, "But I hope they're happy. That's all a mother ever wants."